Okay, we welcome to Stone Soup Poetry. Just doing that pose for an open mic screenshot in the future. Thank you guys for coming. Been a heck of a couple of weeks. We're easing back into Labor Day. I have to announce that next week, and this is something I have to talk to you about, Ed. Next week, Stone Soup's actually happening on a Thursday, which means we might have to make your feature on a Wednesday because I would hate to jostle the week and have people not come out because they don't realize that the date's changed. So you and I, sir, will talk later on. That would hurt
Okay.
like the Dickens. That would hurt like the Dickens. And the reason being is because I thought I was 1 week off in my scheduling. I thought I was featuring on the 18th, but I'm actually featuring on the 11th at the Walnut Street Cafe down in Lynn in the North Shore. It's my second time there, and it's one of my favorite places I've ever read, if only for the fact that um, when you feature there, they put you on a little marquee, literally on the top of the on top of the shop. So that that
Nice.
that that alone makes it worth it. So I am looking forward to that.
Well, you
And
got the
hope we might just have a regular open mic, or if there's anyone who thinks that they might thrive on a Thursday rather than a Wednesday, they can let me know. But everyone who I've wanted to feature is going to feature. Everyone who I've wanted to have come back is going to come back. That much has not changed. So moving forward, just look towards that. Also, look towards the submission for the Poetry Downtown Poet Festival that's happening later on in the morning, I think of like September 28th. They're having a contest submitting to their anthology, The Raven, submitting a poem on the theme of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. The due date is tomorrow. And if anyone has anything that they think is thematically appropriate, you can submit because I know they are hungry for submissions. They had to extend their deadline by 4 days. It was originally going to be on the first. So now you guys have a chance. So click that and you'll get the leads. I'm going to try and submit something tonight after this. At any rate, it's a fun open mic as we count down to November and perhaps the end of democracy or just the end of an election followed by the end of democracy later. We'll find out. Empires will fall. Stone Soup will be there, and which empire it'll be, we can only find out. We are going now to the round robin. I'm going to bring up first. Let's bring up Mr. Richard Spizak.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. May I share screen possibly?
You have permission.
Cool, cool. Okay, here we go. I've got a graphic poem to share with you first. This is one of those marvelous little things that our friends over in Afghanistan do. And I want you to think one particular thing about this. Are we observing the Star Trek value of non-interference, or when people brutalize their women? Is there something we should do? So this is called Simply Silent Afghan Women. Simply Silent Afghan Women. I've got a sister, and this is told, by the way, this is told from the point of view of like a 7-year-old boy. I got a sister. She's a big pain. She's locked me out one time out in the rain. She always tattles to mom and dad. I get away with nothing. I'm so GD mad. She's a big reader. Her nose is always in books. She's a heck of an arguer, a big old know-it-all. Boy, does she give me looks. She gets to stay up later than me. You can see how she always teases and freezes and belittles me. I was watching the news for history class. I don't understand why I must study this to pass. History's boring. There's nothing in it for me. But oh my gosh, you never guess what the heck I'd seen. I learned about the dudes in Afghanistan. They thought up something that I think is grand. Women they surely put in their place, out of sight, out of mind. They're just a damn near replaced. Sure, they're needed to cook and watch the darn kids, but after that, they're silent. That's what the law did. Cover them complete from their nose to their toes when they're out in public. Only they must be silent. Nothing shows. They must be silent when out in the town. Silent goes like you hardly know when they're around. No more arguing with any of us boys. They've been reduced to silent, invisible, compliant toys. Behind their black veil in a virtual chair, no matter where they go, they can never question a male. I'd like to send my sister. How can I apply? To send her to Afghanistan, no asking when or why. To shut her up once and for all. After that, we just see where the GD chips fall. She'll not like it, not one little bit. She has to clam up. She'll have to deal with her and no more of her GD lip. Behind that black veil stuff, she'll never even talk. Boy, that'd fix her. She could never squawk. The last word will always be simply mine. As far as I'm concerned, no more uppity sister for me. It'd be just fine. If you consider the Taliban so much lesser a man, suffice it said, up in his head he finds himself uneven, even overmatched by the slightest, smallest woman when he hears her whisper, catched. What a sad little creature this Taliban man, so much lesser than any man, who must enchain and silence any woman rather than on equal footage deal with them, or even hear their voices. He gets so shooken. Finny. Okay, next, I've got these couple pieces for you. Let's do. I'm afraid I'm going to say negative just for another minute. This is called Oklahoma Lost a Teacher. Oklahoma lost a teacher. It wasn't quite sane, and it sure wasn't prudent. It wasn't good for their brains. The tiniest minds had made up a law. You could see if you look close, it is the tiniest of flaws. What would they do, turning education to lies? They definitely weren't smart, and they definitely weren't wise. They would not see what they could not see, no more than they could take a quick stroll across the roiling, boiling Zuyder Zee. They preferred the world to fit in a cup, and if it wasn't going to do it, well, that's it. What's up? They liked their fairy tales, that much is true, but they sadly, madly wanted them for me, and they insisted on you too. And the world wouldn't fit in their tiny old box. They'd rather just pout, take off their shoes, and darn it, walk barefoot on razor rocks. It didn't matter to them if they banged their toes on simple facts that everyone knows. They wanted to outlaw those kind of facts. They insisted reality stopped right there in its tracks. From all the big world they just wanted to hide. It didn't matter to them if reality didn't coincide. They wanted their facts, and they wanted them now. They didn't like reality. They'd rather not have it. No way, no how. One little teacher stood up to the mob. She actually wanted to teach, though, even if it cost her her job. She showed her students what the law had done. She blocked off the library books with red tape, each volume, every single one. She roped off the library right there in their face. She showed them how stupid, how totally and utterly bereft of grace. When laws are quite stupid, it just makes no sense, out of place. You can't hide from the world, from reality's face. I would tell you more, but you know what? They made me be quiet. And then this last one, I hope you'll be amused. This is a bit of a love poem, my friends. It's called If You Were in Oslo. If you were in Oslo, I wouldn't never wait. I wouldn't go slow. But you know, if you were in Vienna, I would rush to see you, doubly sure in Singapore. If you were in Madrid, let me tell you, kid, or if you were in Rome, I'd make you feel at home. If you were in Bern, I'd have all, that's all I'd have to learn. If you were in Shanghai, I would fly, I wouldn't ask you why. If you were in Johannesburg, I'd tell you all the things I learned. If you were in Copenhagen, I'd be there before you could get from the wet rain in. And were you in Amsterdam, I wouldn't be in also ran. If you were in Rio, I'd be so very glad to see you. If you were in Vladivostok, I'd let you pull my stockings off. If you were in Minsk, you'd be real convinced. If you were in Marseille, I'd say all there is to say. If you rested in Beirut, I'd demand you ply your suit. And if in Dubai, you'd never need to ask me why. If in Istanbul you'd rested weary, you know I'd join you, don't you, dearie? And if you were there in Shannon, I'd be there like a cannon. No matter where you are, you see, it's never really far from me, but it's in the heart. That's where it starts. Thank
Bravo,
you.
bravo.
Thank you, my friends.
Very nicely done, Richard. Up next, I want to bring it over to Mr. Bill Lewis.
Today is, as you may or may not be aware, that great and solemn day upon which the students first return to class. Yes, this is my first day of class today. At 10 o'clock, I had my students zoom into my classroom and I extolled the virtues of object-oriented programming and talked about logic and George Boole and Booleans and all that cool stuff. Students on the first day of class. Loud, self-confident, know-it-all students who can't stop talking and explain what I'm doing before I get around to it. They are so happy, so excited, so eager to participate. Yes, that's right. Now I scream, watch this. I surf on the wave of their enthusiasm. I struggle to keep my surfboard of computer science into the mainstream of the curl. My students, they are my wave, soaking me with their excitement and glee and trying to pull me off my board into the water from the left, from the right, almost from the back. Not in any sense of intimidation or evil, but because they're so excited and life is so fun, it wouldn't be fun to tumble into the waves and splash and splash and splash in the middle of computer science with bits falling down my shirt and bites banging off my head and tumbling into the midst of everything. Oh, oh, oh. Things happen, you know. Whew, excited kids. Oh, excited kids.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bill. And now we're going to bring it over to Mr. Edward S. Galt as I share my screen at his request.
Mm, excellent. Thank you.
There you go, sir.
Thank you very much. That's a picture of Nicholas Columban. He was a Hungarian poet, later came to the United States and began his teaching career in both high school and junior college. And I took his creative writing class, but he also taught German. And it was one of his indigenous languages. And anyway, he wrote in Hungarian and did a lot of translations. And I'm going to read his from his book, Reception at the Mongolian Embassy. This is the title poem. I read the paper on a bench near the Danube. Reception at the Mongolian Embassy, the yield of the wheat harvest. It doesn't say Ava Faludi died. Killing herself in the picture infested room, she took the phone off the hook, silenced the doorbell, gave her key to the super for his Monday discovery. She wrote a note to her salt white cat. I'm doing this because I'm blind, quote unquote. But she could see the pills, her chalk jewelry. She used a scarf to fasten her jaw to her upper teeth, vain even in death. Had 6,000 florins in the bank, a bus driver's monthly pay. Her pension would be dinner for two at the Intercontinental. There's a three-piece wardrobe in her room. Then she opened it. The door became wings, a way to fly to heaven. A trunk lay on top of her closet. It was shrouded in bleached paper. Even the color mourns her. Godmother, you once made me a tort, painting my mouth circus white, sharpened my skates with a kitchen knife, read about goats while mother was away. Now, near the Danube, I see you with marbles under your lids. Willful woman arranging the smallest detail of your dying. You left me behind. Now, in this next poem, he sort of introduces himself, and this one is called Resume. Nicholas Columban was born and raised in Hungary. When the war overran the peaks of Transylvania, his parents fled with 14 suitcases, leaving such valuables as two marzipan-loving goats and Judith the horse. He continued to grow in Root, Austria, a village near the German front lines, while the grown-ups were busy with building shelters and making honey substitute. He attended Austrian schools, learning about snow, dialects, and marmalade. The daughter of the village clockmaker, still in her teens, wished to make love to him, but he declined, citing his youth. Quite fluent in Tyrolean, he and his parents led by his father, returned to Hungary. There he spent 10 years finishing the math-burdened high school and falling in love twice, both times near water. When bullets started again, he hid behind the bathtub. Soon he rode a train to Austria under the influence of letters. He flew to America by Tiger Airlines. This venture took him 32 hours and stopped. He stayed for a while at Camp Kilmer, getting fat on scrambled eggs and jam and true honey. He now teaches. He also loves to bathe his dog in sockless feet and let his toes be mistaken for toy mice. Thank you. That was Nicholas Columban.
Thank you so much, Ed. I can see where you get a little bit of his style from in your own work.
Thank you.
That kind of journalistic straightforwardness.
Thank you.
You honor him well. Thank you so much for sharing that. If you know of any memorial pages you want to link up, definitely share them on the Stone Soup webpage or send them to me. So I would love to share that as any voice that's new to us. Let us go to Christiana, if you're interested in contributing, you're more than welcome to. Whoops, let me help you. There, I pressed asked to unmute, so you should be able to there you go.
Hello. I'm not sure I have words fit for permanent, so um maybe later, but it's nice to be here.
Right. Okay, no problem. Thank you. Thank you much. And now I guess we're going back to storytelling now with the with Mr. Robert Fleming. We're going to Storybookville again with shared screens. Our visual poet from Maryland.
Delaware.
Delaware. Good Lord. I knew the minute I said that was wrong. I screwed up the name recently. I think that's my new senility. My grandmother used to go, "Hey, how you doing? Ryan, Jonathan, Alexis, Chad." Like she had to go through like an entire list of names just to get to me. But it could be genetic. After all, I thought for a while, in a terrible time in my youth, I thought Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin and Rod Stewart were the same people.
Well, I'm announcing that the current issue of Instant Noodles was published September 1st, and the theme is Devil's Party. This is the cover of the magazine, and it was created by David Ivanovich, one of the editors-in-chief, who, like me, is very skilled at graphic design. And I am the visual arts and multimedia editor. I will share some of the works that I included. This first one is by Janina Karpinska. It's called Good to Be Here. The reason why I selected it is primarily because it has a Las Vegas feel to it, with the color in it.
And she also submitted another piece in the same style, which is called Venus, a similar type of color color style. This is another one of the visual pieces by Edward Supranovich called Mad Laughter in the Rain. The other one of the editors-in-chief, Diane Pierce, this is her favorite artist who submits to the magazine. And the challenge with accepting this piece is that this edition was a themed issue called Devil's Party, and this art is abstract art, so it's hard to make a connection between the theme and an abstract piece. But I included it because Diane loves this artist. We also had one multimedia piece, which is a guitar solo, and I will play it. I think it's a 2-minute piece. And let me pull it up.
Thank you so much, Robert. I love I love Edward's work. He's a frequent contributor to Oddball and a poet himself. So I'm so glad his work gets out there as it has, as I feel it deserves. And it is very hard linking up his work to others, but the titles help. But sometimes it's more of a feel when I'm pairing him up with other people. All right. Up next, I would like to welcome up Marianne Honecker, who featured recently and has the book is, oh no, I'm just forgetting her book's title, but I just wanted to say that Whichever Way the Moon. I enjoyed it tremendous. I enjoyed reading it tremendously over this weekend, and I hope to finish it later on. So take it away, Mary.
Read a little from my first book, Becoming Persephone. Tomboy. It was always about power. You wouldn't find me in skirts scattered by gale or flurry, fingers fluttering to hold down wild hymns. I needed you to be able to hear my heavy approach, storm-like, my boots stirred by bullets, clattering with Spencer's silver sword and skull earrings, inverted pentacles. Real men wear black and silver, said a t-shirt, and so did I. God would not command me, nor opinion, nor the squills and smirks of bug-shy girls, batting away both unwanted bees and wanted boys. You're not like most girls, a boyfriend commended me, and I was proud. Years later, my ex-husband and I found a 13-year-old girl, punk spiked bleach hair, chains, and put on toughness, sobbing lopsidedly out of the commons. Silver, excuse me, I'm having a hard time saying today. Silver-plated belt undone. Let's start that sentence over. Years later, my ex-husband and I found a 13-year-old girl, punk spiked bleached hair, chains, and put on toughness, sobbing lopsidedly out of the commons, silver-plated belt undone, shirt on backwards. They stole my music. I thought they were my friends. We coaxed her to hand over her cell and called her mother, who met us asking, "Has she been raped?" All we could say was, "We don't know." I brought an underweight, awkward friend to a party once. 2 beers in, she stumbled and slurred. 3, she went to bed with a crush. I was disgusted. I didn't think anyone could get drunk that quickly. Then the other boys, my friends, started going into that room. I was having a good time. I didn't want a lot of drama. How dare she start this argument between my yin and yang? A woman who is any kind of woman would have called someone, taken her home. But I wasn't any kind of woman, was I? The gutter punks hung around the commons condemned only one person, not the 30-year-old man who bought the booze or the street kids who stole from her, but the 13-year-old girl. She couldn't handle her alcohol, they sneered, while an overdue awareness awakened in me and shouted, "She's 13 years old. She's 13 years old." I, irrational, handled my alcohol. I took what I wanted, sovereign, stoic. I marked my boundary lines. I was one of the guys. So why the sign of his intrusion? A single strand of his hair woven into the teeth of my zipper. The hours of the night fogged over. That's it. Sorry if it was a little choppy. I'm in a crash and having a hard time seeing. Everything's blurry.
You're in our thoughts. I hope you're doing I hope you do better later, Mary. And your book is
Thanks.
fantastic. I've read I think the first 2 parts, and I'm dying to get to the rest of it by this weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you. And up next, oops, where am I? Here I am. And now let's go to our only ranking officer here in Stone Soup, Mr. Generalissimo. Can you be a Mr. General? Generalissimo Brian Franco.
Thank you. I'm sorry, that was quick. Okay. I'm gonna do the first poem was just accepted into an Australian anthology called Brushstrokes, and that'll come out in November. It's called Why We Should Be Thankful for the Existence of Hollywood Squares. The reason, oh, hold on one second. Damn, I just lost it. The reason I prefer gracias to thank you is not because I am a Sephardic Jew whose family escaped Spain to the Isle of Rhodes in Turkey during the Spanish Inquisition. It is not because my grandmother spoke Ladino, a dead form of Spanish kept alive, dead form of Spanish from the 14. Hold on, my computer isn't scrolling correctly. Give me a couple seconds. I'm sorry. It is not because my grandmother spoke Ladino. Uh-oh. What is going on with my computer? I just, well, crap. Every time I try to scroll down, it's taking my thing away. It's not because my grandmother spoke Ladino, a dead form of Spanish from the 1400s kept alive by Sephardic Jews for centuries. It is because thank you has that hard K that can take a gracious phrase in a sarcastic or mean direction. Thank you sounds like it was coined by the late Paul Lynde during an argument with Charles Nelson Riley over whose turn it was to occupy the center square. Gracias sounds like it is made of silk chiffon. Gracias dances across the tongue like a first dance waltz, expertly executed by a bride and groom who took 2 months of ballroom classes from Russian instructors and now glide across a dance floor, excuse me, like Fred and Ginger. When I say gracias, I hear the word grace. I speak a language I know few words of, yet is so universal in its grace and elegance. It also gave us de nada. You are welcome. And then This is in my book, Everything I Think Is All in My Mind. It's called Shrinking Wingback Chairs and Credit Card Readers. The reality that part of everyone's history fades into oblivion is a bit sublime. Memories once strong in our mind, creating hurt and anger and confusion, are disappeared by a collective subconscious, stored in gray matter nooks and crannies, transformed into triggers raring and ready to spray bullets of seemingly hidden personal trauma into the atmosphere of now. Your therapist gives you the option of sitting in a wingback chair with a perfect upright 90-degree back or an overly cushy leather couch that makes you feel the need to nap. The one time you sat on the couch, you fell asleep. Instead of nudging your shoulder, she threw a pillow at your head. Your trust for her grew exponentially after that incident. When she runs your credit card through a white square attached to a cell phone, you are reminded this conversation is a medical business transaction partially covered by insurance, but at least it's partially covered. You reluctantly share what she calls a breakthrough. The utterance of the loaded word loads the thought in your head that she has awarded you an esteemed honor, and there will be a plaque engraved with the date of each new breakthrough you make. But there is no plaque. Words like breakthrough are only good for the moment. She says there's a lot of work yet to do to move forward. You have homework you don't turn in, but it should turn your life right side in, as if you accidentally wore your shirt inside out and a barista mentioned it to you, then you go into the bathroom to fix it. But life doesn't provide us personal baristas to expose our dilemmas and resolve it using a key attached to an espresso machine tamper. You will spend multiple sessions in that wingback chair, regurgitating your past and present to a person required by law to keep your confidence. When you have a brother that thinks sharing your personal information without your permission with anyone he pleases is his fraternal right, and your other brother won't get involved to not rock the proverbial family boat. So you wonder why your family can't allow you a semblance of privacy or familial confidentiality that should supersede what doctors, lawyers, shrinks, and clergy are obligated to give, and seems to only exist from your side of the relationship. At times, the mention of someone's name or the presence of a voice on your voicemail will set off a train of thought that seems to have an endless track that comes dangerously close to edges of cliffs and steams through avalanche zones that require the train to blow its whistle at maximum volume. It's as if you own an AK-47 with the safety superglued shut, but the trigger is activated by data wedged in a crevasse in the Siberian sector of your hippocampus, and no amount of industrial adhesive can keep the safety from slipping open and ruining a closet full of suits, shirts, and shoes. Triggers can activate anywhere: restaurants, Thanksgiving dinners, at work, in a movie, or being frisked by the TSA. Triggers can be words or touches or food or a good old-fashioned gaslighting. But because we own our triggers, we can walk away from situations, verbally call out gaslighters, or even tell someone something is a trigger. No one is worth your time. They claim triggers are cop-outs, or say, be an adult, just suck it up. It's okay to swipe a piece of plastic for 50 minutes in a wingback chair for an educated ear that'll help you make sure the safety on your AK-47 doesn't have to be superglued. It can be stored in Siberia with the triggers, so you don't have to continually buy new closets of clothes. Thank you.
Thank you, Generalissimo. We're getting to the end of the round robin. Before we get to the person who just newly joined us, I'd like to move over to Oddball's columnist, James Van Looy. Oddball is still going strong, though a couple of people are on hiatus. Keep checking it out and keep submitting your work. Any timely work is a plus as we count down to November. And check out James's column. It's all one thing every Thursday morning at 11. James, you are up.
Thanks, Chad. So I have a poem here called Sow Wind, Reap Whirlwind. Just before July 4th, and the fireflies peak and the tornadoes blast the plains, and hurricanes swirl through the Gulf. And I think, sow the wind, reap the whirlwind. Hosea, he who saves, was living the crisis of his times, both collective and personal, marrying Gomer and her unfaithfulness so he would feel God's love of him and God's faithfulness to unfaithful Israel. Oh, Israel of the Zionist litany of lies, a century of total conflation of an almost 2,000-year-old tradition of expatriate worship at home altars, reduced to a settler colonial assault on a place left behind 2 millennia ago. And here we are in the fourth turning, 250 years past Declaration of Independence, totally in the yoke of military industrial strength. Might makes right, hollowed out post-industrial half-century austerity forever for the people, with forever war for them, the addicted Zions of oligarchic overreach, so overrun our bought-up legislature and White House access, and of course, completely corrupted Supremes of legal political hackdom, again reaching in to exert partisan control. And it's just like Ford pardoning Nixon, or even worse, Bush v. Gore, or alternately watching as the Democrats pull the strings to install Clinton in 2016 and Biden in 2020, even though in both cases Bernie Sanders would have beat Trump in a heartbeat. But none of that makes elections have consequences, and 6 corporate-controlled Federalist Society bought and paid for Supremes can sow the wind so we can reap the whirlwind, the hurricane and the Gulf tornado of all that is high laid low, all low filled in. Overreach, blowback, overreach. Corporate Caesar, corporate Supremes, corporate legislation, uber alles. And here's a quick song for you. Corporate Caesar, corporate connection, fight, 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 fight. Corporate connection, corporate corruption, bye, 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 bye. Commercial consumption, consumer conniptions, more, military industrial, military congressional, war, endless warfare, forever warfare, fight, 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 fight. Doomsday scenarios, end. Apocalyptic, death, 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 death. Big bang, black hole, big bang, boing, 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 boing. Corporate Caesar, corporate connection, fight, 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 fight. Corporate Caesar, he can do anything to any one person. Corporate Caesar, he can do anything, but corporate Caesar, he can't do a thing about the military industrials and their generals and that bankster crew. Corporate Caesar, he can't do a thing. So corporate Caesar, fight, 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 fight. Corporate Caesar, fight, 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 fight. Thank you.
Thank you, James. And to close out the first round of the round robin, Richard left, but hopefully he'll make it back. I'm hoping everything's okay with him. But for now, we'll end and begin we'll end. And before we begin round two, we'll end with Mr. Rich Boucher.
Hey, thanks, Chad. I appreciate you offering this venue for us. You do a great service. This poem is called The Milk Brother. This was published a couple of issues ago in the Fixed and Free Quarterly. The Milk Brother. I had gone out with Clover for a while. She was perfectly lovely as a person, and perfectly lovely. We dated. We shared a milkshake and we looked at each other across pillows. We had intimacy on some lovely sunny summer afternoons during the blooming of our short-lived but passionate relationship. It didn't work out, though. It was just one of those things that happen all the time where you're meant to be with someone, but it isn't meant to be. And then, after we parted ways, which we did incredibly amicably, Craig went out with her too. But that was after Clover and I. So Craig and Clover happened after Clover and me were a thing that was. I didn't know Craig, but I ran into Clover one night at the same supermarket, and she was nice to me and introduced me to Craig. Craig was a lot like me, except he had a different unit between his legs, very different hair than mine, and his eyes were a color that I didn't have. We were almost the same. But in one way, we were both the very same. We both had known intimacy with Clover, who had been intimate with the both of us separately, obviously. So Craig, having known Clover as biblically as I had known her, was thus my milk brother. And as such, I felt a tight bond against him. The night when I ran into him and Clover at the same supermarket left me musing and wondering all about Craig. I wondered how he was doing in college. She said they had some classes together. Were his studies going well? Was he eating well? He looked a bit thin. Was he happy? Did he even have any plans for his future? I had to care about him and wonder how he was doing. He was my milk brother. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We were normally going to start with Richard Spizak, who started the first part of this, but we will instead skip over to number two. So this is like it's almost like a regular open mic sheet. So now we're skipping down from number one all the way down to number two, who didn't want to be number one, but now he is number one. Let's go to Mr. Bill Lewis.
You can't do that. I'm supposed to be number two. I refuse. I refuse to be number one. You can't make me. What are you going to do, huh?
Spiritually, you're number two in my heart, Bill.
Oh, thank you, Chad. I want to be the Avis of poets. The wonderful events of this past week cannot be exaggerated. As you can see behind me, I have had fruition of my efforts. My gardening has indeed come to a happy conclusion. Look at that. Something which the ground squirrels did not eat. And are they ready yet? Are these prepared for our usage? Look at this corn. I haven't opened it. What could be inside? Are there worms there? Am I a fool to believe that I could actually grow something that won't be consumed by some bug? Or will it be the most glorious corn that I have ever seen when I open this piece of corn and fall madly and lo, oh, my darling. Oh, your sweetness overcomes me. Ah, love envelops my soul. my corn, my dear, my sweet, my wonderful, amazing Maeve. I love you. I love you. I love you.
Congratulations, Bill, and thank you. We are moving down to the second round of the round robin, and I bring us now to back to rather Mr. Edward S. Galt, aka Magister Galt, aka check out his photo from this past Tuesday's Oddball magazine, an actual eclipse photo to go in an eclipse poem. The eclipses, the poem and the photo are about two different eclipses, but they still go well together. Sir, you're up.
Yeah, it was really hard to get that one too. I had to go out in the middle of a parking lot at night and get that shot. The people around me were complaining that I was using too much flash. So that was a challenging one, but it was worth it. Now I want to go back to Nicholas Columban, but because I want to save my stuff for next week at my feature, and I got some new ones. But you'll get to hear those next week. Now I want to just finish up here with Nicholas Columban and pay tribute to him. This one is called A Man. A man with a full mustache and white hair leans back on a weak arm in bed. His eyes are shut, the nose swollen, and strange as it pasted on. For a moment, he's a dozing walrus. The giant pillow is a block of ice covered with a foot of resilient snow. He suns himself in the sick light of the late afternoon. A half-eaten roll remains on his plate. His glasses are so strong they read the veins of wood in the table, where plastic bottles are scattered, some overturned. The cheeks are puffy. Maybe he stores air in them, for there are times his breath fails him. The slits of his eyes mimic a smile. The other arm is propped on the blanket. Defiantly, the elbow is up in the air, crooked but firm. Where is this pose leading to? Which arm will win out this afternoon, this winter in the light that gleams on the iron bed? And this one, just one more. This one is called In the Diminishing Light. I curb my migraine with unearthly strong C. The pain crawls away from under my eye. It brushes against the bone like a quill. Objects begin to bloom around me, the loveliest flag. It flaps grandly like my sleeves. George's triangular hat on a pole is smug about its shape. George, a master craftsman of survival, doesn't realize how lordly he looks sitting erect in his yard. He inhabits a thin nylon garment that has the texture of a stocking, a mask that blurs. He has been burnt. His scarlet knotted flesh is subdued in the dusk. He's breathing pain more momentous than my feeble one. George believes I resemble an ancient poet with my name, thin sandals made of cordovan leather. I look good on my visible donkey, my former self, lean and resolute. To me, he's a retired Prince Valiant, his wavy gray hair, de-blonded, matted, having faced a succession of high noons. He clutches an imagined curved sword, strangely benign. His medicinal stocking has a line in the back like Romeo's fathers. Velvet slippers guard his wounded heels. Thank you very much. Thank you. And that was Nicholas Columban. And this is from the reception at the Mongolian embassy. Thank you very much.
I'll have to look for that book in the used book market, used book websites. Thank you, Mr. Galt.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're going to go now to visual poet and from Delaware, Mr. Robert Fleming.
I'd like to first thank Chad for putting on the Stone Soup Facebook page the submission opportunity for Telltale Inklings. Do you remember doing that, Chad? Yeah. So they have accepted both one of my graphic images as well as a flash fiction, and my graphic image will be the cover for the magazine. The editor has asked me not to share that until the publication, which will probably be in, I'd say November this year. So I'll bring that back when it's here. At the beginning, I talked about enhancing two of my poems with animation, and I'm going to share what I hope to do. This first one has a trigger warning. It does mention the male member. I'll read it, and then I will share what I hope to do with the animation. Rigging the odds. We are the fat cells in your tummy, born from licking one can of Ready Whip off Tom's cock every blowjob before Tom creams. Buy only Ready Whip. In the supermarket, Cool Whip is 98 cents off 16 ounces, cheaper than Ready Whip. Retract your hand, reaching for the third shelf. If you betray me, I beg, swallow Nutella. Buy only Ready Whip. For the last 10 years, you only fuck Tom. Crabs only 12 times. Syphilis 5 times. If you switch to Cool Whip, your copulations will be the silence of an empty Ready Whip can. Buy only Ready Whip. The column on the right column where it says buy only Ready Whip is what I'm planning to experiment with text animation, both for fading in and for delaying being presented on the screen. And I'm hoping to have an experiment with that within 2 weeks. The second animation is a little more complex. It's text rotation. I will read the piece and then I'll share what I'm hoping to accomplish. 6-day dust and rib collisions. Boys war blue, girls war pink, men war pants, women war dresses. Blue and pink are colors. Trucks and dolls are toys. Jill will be Jack and Jack will be Jill. Boys and girls are not made by their maker. The second stanza at the bottom, what I hope to do with animation is to rotate it. Initially, the stanza would appear inverted like this, and then I would rotate the whole poem where what's on the bottom will go on the top. And I will do that as my second project. I think it's more complicated rotation than text animation. And I hope to have drafts of those within a month and bring those back here and show you the different experiments with animation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fleming. And now I don't think Richard Spizak has come back. Hello to Jen Campbell. Let me know in the chat if you want to read a poem towards the end. We'll get you on. For now, let's go to Marianne Honecker, if she is able to and willing to read a second time.
I'm gonna do a shorter one. This is called Turn Lane. The first few times I drove a car, I remember this feeling of nakedness or displacement, as if I were walking down the center of the road or standing over the arrow painted on the turn lane, waiting for the light to change, or stepping out into the street in front of a moving car. They said the car will feel like an extension of you, and it did. What I could not accept was that I had a place in this flow of headlights and taillights. No, I would always be a child standing on the edges, remembering to look both ways, slipping across the street on quiet feet quickly. If I can make that shift inside myself now, that moment of acceptance, of saying, yes, I belong on this road between the yellow and white lines, beside this pickup truck, also waiting for the green light. I belong as much as anyone. If I could reach out of my frail body and become those four doors and four wheels on this, my road, if I can make that shift again right now. That's all.
Very, very nice. Thank you. And up next, let's welcome, actually, let's insert Jen Campbell here right now so Brian Franco can have a little more breathing space because he was one of the ones who got here late as well. Jennifer Campbell, if you're willing to read, we're willing to listen.
Thank you, Chad. My name is Jen Campbell, and this is my first time joining, so I appreciate it. I appreciate your love and your space, so thank you. Let me I'm doing this on my phone, so I want bonus points for this. Yeah. So I will read a poem called Two Birch Trees. Touching limbs can release pearly white, guessing plants. We are outstretched hands. We are folding in on ourselves. We are grasping for breath. We are guessing at words on the tip of our tongues. But back to the trees. There is lift and out. There is on and done. That close forward and asks for no more. These trees, they can have leaves, they can grow straight, and they can take all. But more, they bend and ask for excuses. They double over in pain. They wish for remembrance and silently wait for the world to turn. That's all.
Thank you so much, Jen. Very nice. And welcome. We've been two ships passing as far as like getting venues and everything, but I promise to send you links and info for Oddball. Let's get you back here soon.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Generalissimo Brian Franco.
Okay, this is another piece that's in my book. Everything I think is on my mind. It's called proper irrigation techniques for high wire trees. There have been times I have continued to cry after my tear ducts ran dry. I heard on NPR that California avocado and almond farmers hire water well drillers that use oil exploration drills to tap previously untapped aquifers. The Earth's water is not an infinite resource. Farmers dig deeper and deeper every year, yet I still continue to cry when my tear ducts run dry. Unlike the Earth, I will never run out of emotions. I won't deny myself a good cry, which is my equivalent of a balancing bar for an unrepentant high wire act life. I understand I can't keep drilling till I hit nothing or maybe cry a little magma. I understand that my personal aquifers are a limited resource, but crying on the inside is an option that has never worked out, and I can choose to let the high wire exist without attempting to ever cross it again. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, Jen, your poem was absolutely beautiful.
I love it when poets compliment each other. It is so nice. Let us move on now to Mr. James Van Loy.
Okay. This is called Welcome to the Analog Antidote to the Digital Days. That is, days as in days of our lives, and days as in he was in a daze, and he went back to whence he came, and we're all in this together. No matter how many times they tell us society does not exist, we can see the devices change consciousness. We are trapped behind them as we watch our train's doors close or dodge them as they weave around, looking down at the thing in their hand or lost in the sound between their ears. I feel so grateful I'm old. I don't have to do it. I'm used to being alone. I believe in spending time alone. I need to be alone a lot, a whole lot, even as I know that increasingly I'm isolated and I'm changing too. I've even finally used my son's cell phone. As I did, I thought the McElroys don't have much time to bake the brains of an old fart like me. It is amazing. My body still works as well as it does. Here I am, still writing with a ballpoint pen that came in when I was a kid, learning to write with cartridge ink pens back in grade school in Essexville, Michigan. And I've still got calligraphy cartridge pens I use all the time. Analog me at each stage, stacks of notebooks, mime figures, karate kata, juggling columns, slinky helix, spinning yo-yo, material magic, mystical matter, labyrinth of life, labyrinth of life. And here's a quick song to go with it called The Future is Back. The people sit waiting, shit hits the fan, sewage in the harder and the gutters are jammed. Lost the poopy diaper down the old commode, the present men sucked down the bathtub's hole. Took every dollar that wasn't nailed down, turned our less stand homes into the expensive part of town. Transformed our jobs into part-time fill-in slop, slept plenty of the money cause there ain't no benefits. The throughway is crammed with fumes and heat. No one gets out, no one escapes the fleet. Don't drink the water, stockpile rice and beans. Play them Monopoly games in them nuclear fantasy dreams. What comes around goes around, so don't swim back the dam. People get ready, people get ready. Shit done hit the fan. Peace.
Thank you so much, James. And before we go to our closer, I did want to ask if Christiana wanted to do something one more time. Okay. I have asked you to unmute. That should make it simple. There you go.
Okay, so can you hear me? I'm going through a pretty rough time right now, so I'm gonna shamelessly plug my Venmo at Christiana Celli. Because I don't want to end up homeless and forced exposed to COVID. And that might happen soon. But I'm also, yeah, this has become an emergency situation, so I'm gonna try new things. And I think I'm gonna try out something I wouldn't ever normally do, but it doesn't involve having actual intercourse with people or being nude. So I'm gonna try financial dom and for like a month and see what I can do, just because literally I have to do this because I've been trying to find work that's safe and I can't. And unfortunately, jobs for women who don't have college degrees from home are hard. I haven't found any that are lucrative enough to pay my current rent. So I'm going to see what I can do in a month. And also, I have Bill. I accidentally found your poetry book or brought it home from out of the blue. And I was wondering if you wouldn't mind if I read a poem from it. Because I want to practice my starting to talk Naughtyville or whatever. So it's either spanking or Mary Jane makes me horny. Which one should I do? I can't hear you.
Let's do the spanking.
Spanking, of course. Okay. Okay.
Oh, spanking. Go for it, girlfriend.
Okay, and I've never read this before. I'm opening it for the first time. Okay. Spanking. Just a little swap on the behind to let her know she's been bad. Just a tiny whack on her derriere to let her know that you're sad. You're sad for her transgression, for her negligent and lazy work. Her disobedience upsets you, and you find she tends to shirk. For this she must be punished. For this she deserves a spank. For this she needs correction. You must be firm and frank. So tie her to the bedpost and strip her of her clothes, and give her 30 lashes till her ear is bright and rose, and make her cry out loudly, and make her moan from lust, and make her scream and yell and beg and as she kneels upon the dust. For pain is merely pleasure when applied with a righteous hand. For this she'll love you truly, even though it hurts to stand. What a silly perversion. Can you imagine that there are people who find punishment arousing, that when done correctly, they find enormous sexual excitement in the idea of spanking, and orgasmic pleasure in actually receiving one? Their partners find equal excitement in administering such punishment. Truly, such people are of horrible, degenerate character. Worse still is the fact that there are so many of them. Not only are there thousands of people who do it, but there are thousands and thousands more who dream of it, but are terrified to actually do it. It's a spanking. It doesn't cause physical damage. It doesn't spread disease, and it doesn't cause pregnancy. What's the big deal?
Bill, what was the title of that Old McDonald Spanks?
E-I-E-I-L. And other things I did not expect to say when I began the day making breakfast. Thank you so much, Christiana.
Thank you.
And we are, this is fun. And we are going to, where are we going? Oh, yes. Yeah, where am I going? Where am I? Where is everybody? Here. Rich Boucher. I can think of you as the perfect poet to follow that. This is going to be a great close. Thank you so much, sir.
Of course, thank you. And I enjoyed that poem. I put something in the chat for those who are discerning observers, kind of a response to what was just read by Christiana and written by Bill. This poem is called Fine Ass Out of Nowhere. I guess if I was honest, I'd call it the greatest 5th of June I've ever known. That time, as the sun fought hard not to die out way past the horizon, way beyond this part of the city, way beyond Montgomery Boulevard. 2022, or thereabouts, sometime after the end of the country. That afternoon, I drove to the Walgreens for medicine, I tell you. And what I wound up getting was the kind of gift you only get when fate ties one on and gets good and loaded. I walked from my car towards the entrance, and it was then I noticed the strong, warm breeze. It was then I noticed I was behind 2 women ahead of me, walking towards the entrance also. It was then that I saw that the moment was also seeing me. The woman closest to me wore a very short blue summer dress, and then the deviant cherub of the wind, for a split second, for exactly 1/2 of a moment, lifted up the back of her dress, and, utterly by chance, I caught a glimpse of her fine, naked-ass cheeks ding-dinging along into the same store as I was also on the way in to get me some drugs. I smiled to myself in the most pleasant shock in the world, but then I started to check myself. Don't revel in this like some perv. Act your age and just move on. But then I said to myself, what are you even feeling guilty for? It's not as though you planned this out or anything. But then I said to myself, what in the hell kind of gentleman can you possibly claim to be, spending this much time even thinking about this? It happened. Let it go. But then I said to myself, I've got to be the only person neurotic enough to get into a mental argument with himself in a Walgreens parking lot over something he had absolutely no control over and that he has no reason to be ashamed of at all. And what could be more natural than a goddamned breeze just up and gusting out of nowhere, and the back of short dresses are gonna do what the back of short dresses are gonna do? And do I seriously know anyone else who would actually spend this much energy dwelling on this? And it was then that I realized that I'd driven to the wrong Walgreens, and they wouldn't have my prescription without calling my actual Walgreens, and I didn't care when the pharmacist told me it would be 20 minutes or so. Thank you.
And boom. Thank you, Rich. Thanks for in the chat. This is Chow chat's always lively. Thank you, Rich, and thanks to everyone who came out tonight for this
True story, by the way.
for this last minute open mic with more announcements to come. Now this weekend's freed up, and we are and I'll have more announcements to give very soon. More exciting voices, more people coming home, and Stone Soup will be different next week, as I do have a feature in Lynn at the Walnut Street Cafe, which is a very fun place to read. I'll be photographing my marquee for the second time in my life. The first time was the last time I was at the Walnut Street Cafe, so that's exciting. And so there'll be more announcements coming for next week's Stone Soup. If you know anyone out there who might benefit from a Stone Soup feature on a Thursday instead of a Wednesday, I'd be worried about the regulars, but I know some people who can bring in a crowd whatever day it is. And if someone's brave enough to say, I am that person, let me know and I will do that. Pass it on if they say, I accept your challenge, and I will do so. So yeah, I think that's about it. I hope you guys had at least a quiet Labor Day, if not a work-free Labor Day. I know that's very tough, and I hope all of you get the rest that you need. It's gonna be a long few weeks ahead, leading up to the end of the year. But I know we can pull off, and I know we can do it together and have at least a little bit more fun doing it. With that, I give the wave. Thank you all for your words and your sharing. Good luck to everybody. Thanks for a great mix tonight, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you guys very much, and have a good evening. Oh, and hopefully next time we'll hear John Wesnick's rendition of the story he wrote for me. John Wizard wrote a story, Chad Parento's Poutine, I think is the story based on his Canadian trip, I think. So it's going to be fun. So again, next time, I'll see you.